This is question 6 from the 2012 Maths. We've got Alice, Bob and Charlie, all well-known expert logicians. They always tell the truth. They are sat in a row as illustrated above. In each of the scenarios below, their father puts a red or a blue hat on each of their heads. Alice can see Bob and Charlie's hats, but not her own. Bob can only see Charlie's, and Charlie can't see any of them, right? Because they're all looking off to the right, so they can't see their own or anything behind them. They're all aware of that arrangement. Right, their father puts a hat on each of their heads and says, each of your hats is either red or blue. At least one of you has a red hat. Alice then says, I know the colour of my hat. What colour is each person's hat? Explain your answer. Okay, right, well, as usual with question 6, the difficulty is explaining the answer rather than anything else. So we've got at least one red hat. So we have got one or more red hats. Therefore, B and C must both be blue for A to know that her hat is red. Right, so we might want to say a bit more than that. I mean, that's, pretty obvious and it sort of covers it, but we might as well carry on and say that if either B or C is red, then A cannot know if there is a second red hat or even a third red hat, if there is another red hat or not. So there we go. So yes, that covers the first one. Right, part 2 then. Their father puts a new hat on each of their heads. Says again, right, each of your hats is either red or blue. At least one of you has a red hat. Right, so it's the same situation. They've just changed the hats around. Alice then says, I don't know the colour of my hat. Bob then says, I don't know the colour of my hat. So what colour is Charlie's hat? Right, okay, well, this is following on from the previous question then. So C must be red. Be red for similar reasons. Similar reason to part 1. Part 1. Part 1. I.e., if someone can see a red hat, then they cannot know if there is another one. Is another red hat. So there we go. Right, so that's those. Or not, maybe I'll put on there. Okay, part 3. Their father puts a new hat on each of their heads. Right, each of your hats is either red or blue. Yep, at least one of you has a red hat. At least one of you has a blue hat. Right, so we've got at least one red, at least one blue. Then what are we saying? Alice says, I know the colour of my hat. Bob then says, mine is red. So what colour is each person's hat? So Alice must see 2 hats of the same colour to know the colour of hers. To know hers. To know hers. So if we got 2 hats of the same colour, therefore Bob must know that his C is the same as his. Therefore, we're saying that A is blue and that Bob is, well, we know that Bob is red. Bob is red and Charlie is red. Okay, Right, there's more of these. They keep going. They haven't been particularly challenging so far. Part 4. Their father puts a new hat on each of their heads and says, each of your hats is either red or blue. At least one of you has a red hat. At least one of you has a blue hat. Alice then says, I don't know the colour of my hat. So that must mean, so from A, B and C are different. Therefore, B is red if C is blue. Okay, so Charlie's hat is blue. Okay, then the last part. Their father puts a new hat on each of their heads and says, each of your hats is either red or blue. Two of you who are seated adjacently both have red hats. Alice then says, I don't know the colour of my red hat. Colour of my hat. What colour is Charlie's hat? Explain your answer. Right, so at least two of you who are seated adjacently both have red hats. Right, so if B was, well, let's say that B was, well, B can't be blue. B is going to have to be red then, isn't it? So B will have to be red. B has to be red. And then if, because otherwise you can't have two red ones next to each other if the one in the middle is blue, then if C is blue, then A would know they are red. Therefore, C is red. And we don't know what A is, but all we need to know is Charlie's hat. Right, they were particularly easy. I thought they were going to ramp that up a bit towards the end. Maybe it's because I've seen these sort of questions before. You know, these particularly did the rounds sort of 10 years ago or so. Probably not this particular set of questions, but there were certainly ones that were a bit like this that were popular. It's all going around on various forums and things. So yeah, maybe it's because of that, but I don't know, it didn't seem to be that challenging. It's just about writing them out. It takes longer to write them out than to actually work them out. A lot of them were fairly trivial. So, well, there you go. That's question 6. Yeah, a bit of a sort of wishy-washy one, that.